If you are saving your points for a rainy day, consider it to be rainy season right now. In this hobby, it's actually pretty irresponsible to just hoard a large bank of points. Devaluations are going to hit without warning, they are going to hit pretty often, and they are oftentimes going to hit your points harder than inflation hits a normal consumer basket of goods.
Welcome to the Geobreeze Travel Podcast, a show for anyone wanting to level up their travel hacking lifestyle. I'm your host, Julia Menez. I'm a travel hacker, coach, speaker, Filipino-American ENTJ who loves solid travel gear and using shortcuts on spreadsheets. On this show, I'm on a mission to bring you travel hackers from all walks of life to help you level up your travel hacking game. We dive into credit cards, miles, points, strategy, mindset, and the secrets behind how to travel the world for next to no cost. So, let's get hacking.
Are you tired of missing out on amazing flight deals? It's time to change that. If you haven't yet heard of Thrifty Traveler, they are an email subscription service that brings the world's best flight deals straight to your inbox. I actually have an entire Gmail folder just for Thrifty Traveler deals, just to make sure that I don't miss out on a deal. They oftentimes send out 3 or 4 deals a day, including both cash and points deals. Some recent emails have included business class flights to Dublin for 39,000 points, business class flights to Turkey for 45,000 points, and flights to Malta for only $615 instead of the usual $1,200. These deals never last long, so sign up today at thriftytraveler.com and use the code GEO10, that's GEO10, to save $10 off of the annual subscription. Thank you to Thrifty Traveler for partnering with this episode of the Geobreeze Travel Podcast. When I talk to people who are agonizing about some aspect of their points, whether it's earning points or redeeming points or something else, and they seem really worried or upset about points, I usually ask them, what do you think is going to be the worst case scenario here? And usually it's something like, well, I'm going to end up wasting my points and I'm going to spend them on a flight where I could have gotten it for so much cheaper, like everybody else on the internet. And as far as worst case scenarios go, that honestly doesn't come close to the worst case scenario that I probably spend too much time thinking about. So let me paint a picture for you. I was recently on a call with somebody and he had more than 4 million points banked up. And a lot of those points, all of those points, were program-specific points. He had 1 million Delta points and 1 million United points, 1 million Alaska, 1 million American Airlines, something like that. And so he had accrued these 2 million Delta and United points over many, many years and had never bothered to spend them because he just kept waiting for a good deal to come up. And it sounded like they were decently well off. He owned his own business. They go on a big trip every year. But because he could afford to, he would always just pay money for those trips because the points valuation was just never there. And he was always like, well, I could get a better deal. I should save it for a better deal some other time. In that time, Delta and United devalued their points a ton. But that's not even the worst part of this. This guy's over 70 years old. He has just been holding on to his points for literally decades, waiting for a better deal to come up, and has just been paying tens of thousands of dollars for trips in the meantime. And so I asked him, well, what do you want to do with these 4 million points? He responded he wanted to wait for a better deal. And it was all that I could do to keep from yelling on this call, sir, you're going to die. Many people who get into the points hobby come from a background where they learn it is the responsible thing to do to save and invest your money. You want to put it aside for a rainy day. There is virtue in delayed gratification. You should pass the marshmallow test. All of those good sayings. But that is not true with points. You're not going to earn interest by hoarding your points. This isn't like a high interest savings account or investing in index funds or anything like that. There's also so much talk on the internet about paying it forward to future generations and generational wealth and all of that good stuff. The problem is a lot of points aren't transferable upon death. Some are, but some just get cashed out at a 1 cent per point ratio, which isn't all that great. And you could put your points into a trust fund for your kids. But if your United and Delta points are getting devalued at a rate of 10% or 20% per year, how valuable do you think those points are going to be in a few decades if you leave them to your kids? I would argue that it is instead a much better decision to spend your points ASAP and make those vacation memories with your family. For those of you who don't know, before I started doing Geobreeze travel full-time, I was a health actuary. My job involved a lot of deep math modeling to figure out how likely people were to get sick. And to get my credentials, I had to study more than 400 hours to pass one exam. It was called Modeling Life Contingencies, and the entire exam was around figuring out people's life expectancy and how likely somebody was to live or die past a certain time period. The actuarial life tables are publicly available, but a little bit difficult to interpret for most people. So if you're in your mid to late 60s, like my parents are, according to the actuarial tables, your life expectancy is another 15 to 20 years. Granted, all 4 of my Asian grandparents made it into their 80s or 90s, but also, on the other hand, my dad smokes, so tomorrow's never really promised, for my family or for yours. All of that being said, if you are saving your points for a rainy day, consider it to be rainy season right now. In this hobby, it's actually pretty irresponsible to just hoard a large bank of points. Devaluations are going to hit without warning, they are going to hit pretty often, and they are oftentimes going to hit your points harder than inflation hits a normal consumer basket of goods. For example, in June 2023, United devalued some of their award chart by about 30%. With United, one-way partner flights to Asia used to cost about 38.5 thousand miles in economy or 88,000 miles in business class. Well, now those exact same routes cost 60,000 points per person, one way, in economy, and 110,000 points in business class, still with United, still for the exact same routes. Delta miles have been on the devaluation train for quite a while because oftentimes it's going to cost more than 200,000 points to fly to Europe in business class with Delta miles. There are still a few sweet spots where you can jump on Delta flash sales and fly over to Europe for as low as 30,000 points, and every day it's becoming further and fewer. So if you're sitting on a large bank of program-specific points like United or Delta or Hilton, any type of points where you can't really use those points for other programs, make a goal to spend those points on some kind of travel booking in the next 6 to 12 months. This could mean that you're not taking the actual trip until 18 months from now or 24 months from now, but at least the points are spent and therefore you're guarded against devaluation. If you already have these types of points banked up, I highly recommend you go make time to take the vacation and spend those points rather than waiting to hit some kind of arbitrary number like, I don't want to spend any of my United points until I hit 1 million points in my points bank. Because honestly, why? Why are you waiting for that 1 million points? Is it just to take a screenshot of your points? Because that screenshot's not going to mean much to anybody. I can almost promise you that some photos from a vacation that you booked with points are going to be so much more meaningful for you rather than a screenshot of a points bank of points that you are too afraid to spend. And if you're like, I want to spend my points, but I have no idea how, we have tons of resources for you. You can download our Free Points 101 course at geobreezetravel.com/free course. You can check out the playlist of different tutorials we have on the Geobreeze Travel YouTube channel. You could Google Delta Sweet Spots and look through those different points articles. You could join some points Facebook group and ask people there for ideas on how to spend your points. And if you want some extra help from me, we have a couple ways you can do that too. Every month, we do group coaching and provide step-by-step tutorials inside of the Geobreeze Travel Patreon. You can access that by going to patreon.com/geobreezetravel. Or if you spend more than $100,000 a year on expenses and you'd like some more one-on-one help from me, you can book a free intro call to learn more about our points portfolio management offer at geobreezetravel.com/intro call, and we have all of those links for you in the show notes as well. There are some program-specific points that still have great sweet spots, like American Airlines and Alaska Airlines and Hyatt. Personally, though, I still try to minimize the number of points sitting in any of those accounts. Currently, a ticket to Europe costs about 57.5 thousand American Airlines miles per person one-way in business class, or 70,000 American Airlines miles per person one-way in business class if we wanted to go to the Middle East. So once my American Airlines bank hits 120,000 points, I am booking 2 one-way tickets to Europe in business class. Or if I really want to wait it out and wait until it hits 140,000 points, then I'm going to book 2 tickets in Q Suites. I really encourage you to do some research to see how many points it's going to cost to do the trip that you want to take. Then, as soon as your points balance hits the amount of points that you need, and you see the award availability, go ahead and book that trip, because that's the whole reason you started earning points in the first place. Isn't that right? So now that we've hammered in the impermanence of life, and also the impermanence of point sweet spots, please go book a vacation. And if you're new to this hobby, please don't obsess over what is the best way to make the most out of my United points. I'm afraid to use them on a bad redemption. If this is your first redemption, don't worry about it, because I promise you 2 things. 1, if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to earn more points. Don't worry about it. And number 2, the worst case scenario is not that you make some kind of subpar redemption. The worst case scenario is that you keep waiting for the stars to align for the perfect redemption, and time runs out and you don't get to make a redemption at all.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Geobreeze Travel Podcast. If any of the cards mentioned in today's episode piqued your interest, please check out the links in the show notes for more information on any of the cards. Also, if you apply for a card using the links on that page, I may receive a commission too, so please and thank you. P.S. I hear the links work better in Internet Explorer or Safari, and sometimes the credit card applications tend to glitch out in Chrome. Additionally, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star review, and share it with a friend. And if you would like to make even more travel hacking friends, please sign up for the Patreon to access our monthly masterclass hangouts. We dive deep into a particular points program each month, and you'll get to ask all of your travel hacking questions and enjoy being around other people who enjoy points and miles just as much as you and I do. If you would like an invite to the next one, head over to geobreezetravel.com/hangouts to sign up to be on the invite list. Take care and happy travels!